Today we're going to talk about Trump sinking his own case on the campaign trail, and I have two interviews this week. I interview Congressman Jared Moskowitz about the Republicans' hypocrisy in censuring Adam Schiff while protecting George Santos and Donald Trump, and his response to the GOP's obsession with gas stoves. And I interview Congressman Rocana about the massive $886 billion defense bill that he was the lone no vote on, and his effort to push the White House to have a plan in place in case the Supreme Court blocks Biden's student loan debt cancellation plan. I'm Brian Tyler Cohen, and you're watching No Lie. First off, we do have a pretty consequential update from Jack Smith. He's requested that the judge presiding over the classified documents case, that's Judge Cannon, move the trial date from the intended start date of August 14th to December 11th, 2023. Now, Jack Smith noted that the defense counsel is going to need time to obtain the necessary security clearances and then actually have time to review the evidence. So this is the DOJ making a good faith effort to give them enough time to do that. And I say good faith because then you've got the Trump defense team, which actually opposes this move, which confused the hell out of me until I realized that the reason they oppose it isn't because they don't want to vacate that August trial date. They do. They just want it delayed even further than December. Remember, the longer they can push this thing out, the better chance they have at Trump winning the presidency and then using his position to quash these prosecutions. So if December seems just a bit far off for comfort, recognize that Jack Smith was probably making a pretty sound calculation by choosing a date that does give the defense more than enough time while also being not so far into the future that we risk any undue interference from the election itself. But to be honest, the date of that trial should be the least of Trump's attorneys' worries. What should actually be their concern is the fact that their client is currently on the campaign trail building a pretty airtight case against himself. Here is Trump from just days ago, yet again confessing to the crime that he's currently facing prosecution for.
In other words, whatever documents the president decides to take with him, he has the absolute right to take them. He has the absolute right to keep them, or he can give them back to NARA if he wants. He talks to them like we were doing, and he can do that if he wants. That's the law, and it couldn't be more clear.
So, first off, that is literally not what the law says. That is a figment of Trump's imagination because, I don't know, the president of Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton, told him that's the law, but it's not. I mean, just use some common sense here. Why would a law passed after Watergate in response to Nixon seeking to destroy presidential records, why would that give presidents more latitude to steal documents? It makes no sense on its face. The Presidential Records Act established that presidential records belong to the U.S. government, not the president personally, and therefore must be preserved. That's all. It's pretty simple. But what Trump is trying to do is just throw out legal jargon in hopes that it'll just sound more official, that it'll sound like he knows what he's talking about. Like when you start name-checking legislation or statutes, it gives the impression that you're some kind of an expert. Only in this situation, all Trump is doing is literally invoking the exact law that he broke. It's like, imagine if I set a building on fire and when the cops came to arrest me, I was like, sorry, fellas, maybe look up the definition of arson. But think about what Trump is actually doing. He is broadcasting that he stole the documents because the law said it was fine. Now, that's not what the law says, and the jury will obviously be made well aware of that. But Trump is hinging his entire defense on that very, very easily debunkable lie. So the moment they prove what the law says, which again will be easy because the Presidential Records Act does not give a president carte blanche to just take classified documents with them like they're fortune cookies, then Trump's defense is shot. Like I honestly can't imagine what's going through his head, that his strategy here is just to pretend that a law that says one thing says another thing, and then to just admit to the crime because you're playing make-believe with regard to that law. It may work on the suckers who believe him at that rally, but again, it arguably could not be dumber when it comes time to show up in a courtroom. So look, does this wall-to-wall coverage of Trump in the media drive everyone crazy? Yes. But the silver lining here is that the more he talks, the more ammo he gives to those same prosecutors who are going to be fighting in court to make sure that he's held accountable for his crimes. Trump's fortunes don't change at all based on how many rallies he does. Those are already his diehard fans. They're already showing up for him. He's already got them. Those rallies are there to feed his ego and to bilk those marks for more cash. But what will change by virtue of him doing all these rallies and talking more and being more in the media is that he will hand prosecutors more evidence to use against him in court. So the Trump show may be tired, but at this point, he's not only acting as the defendant in this case, he's also lending a hand to the prosecution. Here's a preview of my interview with Congressman Jared Moskowitz. To that point, the circus of it all, there was a moment just a few days ago where Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert clashed on the House floor because each of them were vying to introduce a resolution to censure Joe Biden or to impeach Joe Biden before the other one could. What was the feeling, among both Republicans and Democrats when this thing kind of spilled out into the open?
I mean, the feeling, quite frankly, is I have my money on Marjorie Taylor Greene. I mean, that's the feeling. I mean, if you said, Jared, you got to bet $1,000, who are you betting? I'm taking Marjorie. I mean, have you seen her clean and jerk videos in her garage? I mean, so I would take Marjorie in that. But look, my guess is and I don't know personally, my guess is they've probably had a little beef before. This is not something new. Marjorie, filed articles of impeachment against everybody. She has impeached half the Biden administration with what she's filed. And look, she's mad that, Lauren took it a step further and actually, tried to force a vote on it, which, by the way, they didn't. They didn't vote whether to impeach Joe Biden. They're now setting it to the Homeland Security Committee. Why? They don't have the votes. They don't have the votes to impeach Joe Biden. Why? Well, he didn't commit high crimes and misdemeanors. They don't have any evidence of that, right? So now they're going to send it to Homeland, and they're going to try to convince the American people for the next several months that Joe Biden should be impeached. I say, go ahead, impeach him. If you think that he committed a crime, impeach him. But they don't have any evidence. They got nothing. They're trying to tell the American people one day that he's slow, he's old, right? But now he's Tony Soprano leading the Biden crime family. And somehow Hunter is like Kaiser Sose. I mean, it's just absolutely lunacy. But this is what they got. This is what their viewers, their primary voters want to see. It's retribution, it's grievance. This is the entirety of their agenda. I don't know what they're for. I definitely know what they're against.
And here's a preview of my interview with Congressman Rocana. The House Armed Services Committee voted 58-1 to approve its $886 billion defense bill. You were the only no vote. How do we end a 20-year war and our defense spending goes up by hundreds of billions of dollars? And I mean that earnestly. Like, what is the rationale to do that?
You'd think there'd be some peace dividend after the end of the Cold War, after the end of the Iraq War, after we pull back our troops. But it's going up. And one of the reasons it's going up is defense contractors. I mean, almost half of the discretionary budget goes to defense contractors. Anyone who saw the 60 Minutes report knows that there's just a ton of fraud. There's a ton of abuse. I had led a couple of years ago a hearing into TransDigm where they basically acknowledged that they were jacking up prices 1,000% because there's no competition. So there should be outrage. I don't care what party you are. The taxpayer dollars are just being wasted. And then you have things that are just duplicative. We have the B-21 bombers, which are new and better aircraft, but we're still buying the B-1-2B bombers, which aren't as necessary anymore. The F-35s that cost overruns, we're still buying them. We're trying to get new ICBM missiles, which we don't need when we could just fix and modernize the current ones. And I can go on and on. But no, it's a very hard vote, apparently, for folks. I don't know why in the Beltway it's hard. People understand that they don't want more wasteful spending.
To watch the full interviews with both Jared Moskowitz and Rocana, click the thumbnails right here on the screen or check out the interviews playlist on my YouTube channel. You can also follow the link on the screen for the audio version of this podcast. And of course, to see more of my content, don't forget to follow that link on the screen to subscribe.